It is 7:04. We will call this meeting in order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a couple quick announcements. Tax bills for quarter 3 and quarter 4 of fiscal year 2026 will be sent out in early January. Bills are now mailed 2 times per fiscal year, and each mailing contains 2 quarterly bills. This is a friendly reminder that quarter 3 tax bills will be due on February 2nd. Grafton Recreation and Westboro Recreation are partnering for a paint and pizza night at the Westboro Community Center on Thursday, January 15th at 5:30. Participants will follow a guided painting activity and enjoy pizza while they work. This relaxed event is designed for all abilities. Come, create, socialize, and take home your masterpiece. Register at Westboro Rec, that's WESTBOROREC.com. Okay, we're going to start tonight with a poll petition from National Grid. Mr. Alamo, we can...
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
the Select Board will hold a public hearing on the request of the National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated for permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. On Willard Street, National Grid to install one JO pole on Willard Street beginning at a point approximately 30 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Captain Liam O'Brien Road. National Grid to also install one new 40-foot Class 3 pole numbered P21-50 on Willard Street to serve a new pole in line at 6 Captain Liam O'Brien Road for a new student health care facility. The public hearing will be held now on December 16th, 2025, here in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center, located at 30 Providence Road, starting at 7 p.m. Remote participation is available using Zoom webinar ID 832-1082-0905. Interested citizens are invited to attend this public hearing and offer comments in writing in person or via Zoom. Written comments must be received by noon Thursday, December 11th, 2025.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is Michael Iberger here from National Grid?
Yep, I just need to promote him to a panelist.
Hi, how's it going? I'm here.
Hi, welcome. I don't know if you heard our reading of the legal notice and why we're here, but is there anything else you think needs clarification or you want to share about the project?
No, that's pretty much it. We're just installing the pole there so we could put up a 3-phase transformer bank, and then we're just going to feed it over to another pole on Tufts property, which their service is going to come off of. Pretty straightforward.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none. Any questions from the public? Any hands on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the poll petition by National Grid for Willard Street as presented.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Okay. Thank you for coming in tonight, Michael.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good holiday.
You too. Okay. We'll now do public comment, limiting people to a maximum of 3 minutes. This also should pertain to anything that's not on the agenda. As we go through agenda items, you'll have the chance to speak then. Anybody? Come on up. Name and address, please.
David Glisman, 5 Stratton Road, Grafton. I have 2 things, and I will keep them as short as I can. My first is, I know that at the last town meeting, we approved the purchase of the land on Providence Road, that abuts the sewage treatment plant. And Evan, correct me if I make any miscues on this. My 76-year-old memory isn't what it used to be. But in any event, the way I understood it to be presented, there was a frontage lot that had a strong value of somewhere in the 300,000 range. And the 40 acres behind is a combination of wetlands and floodplain, and so virtually not worthless, but had a value of approximately 155,000. So the total aggregate was 455,000. I'm wondering if the town would, or if the board would entertain chatting about perhaps selling the frontage lot for its full value, and then purchasing the land on North Street, which is adjacent to the North Street School, which I think would have really strong value for the town. I wasn't looking for any input. I just wanted to put it in front of you, and if it's a frivolous idea, tell me to go home.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did purchase it for the purpose of conservancy at the town meeting vote, so I don't believe we can peel off any of the lot for that purpose. We are also in the process of negotiating for that lot on North Street.
Okay.
That,
All right.
is adjacent to the school.
Yeah. I felt that in light of how the land trust presented their case, that we grossly overpaid for that without negotiation, and it would be prudent to try to recover some of that. But if that's not possible,
Yeah, we didn't grossly overpay because of a negotiation. We're bound by law to pay no more than what the appraisal value is, and that's what the appraisal value was.
that's only on eminent domain.
That is not that's not accurate.
Oh, okay, well, I guess you can argue with the land attorney that I talked to.
I will not, but he's wrong.
Did you
Okay.
have a second question or statement?
I do. The last select board meeting was relative to the town's health insurance. And in sitting in the audience and being a taxpayer, I have a lot of respect for the select board, and I felt that it was given to you on a 23rd hour with absolutely no choice, but because it had to be done by December 1st, with absolutely no choice but to approve it. Again, as a taxpayer, I would like to see that type of situation brought much earlier to the board, so that your collective intelligence and wisdom can guide us to the best result. And I can't for the life of me understand why something that's a 7-figure line item has to be done and decided in 10 minutes at one meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Just on the land thing, could we go back to town meeting and reclassify any of it? No, we can't reclassify that
No,
as
you bought it with CPC money.
Okay. That's the kicker.
Yep.
No Ann Johnson.
We have no appointments tonight, so we can move into our first item on new business, which is continue our FY27 budget discussion. School committee will not be here tonight, neither will the superintendent, but the select board will be conducting our own discussion.
All right. You can go past the acknowledgement. Everybody knows where they're at. That's for when it's on the website. So again, just like years past, our three main prongs of this budget are to continue to provide services that the residents want, create a competitive work environment,
Yeah, we're done here.
and continue to fund the schools competitively. This is our normal comparison with the state. You can see that we in Grafton, the median income is about 23% higher than the median in the state. Average single family house is actually just a little bit less than in the state on average. And our tax bill is about $1,000 higher than the aggregate tax bill in Massachusetts for a single family home. I'm going to go through this quick because this was in the original presentation, but we continue to be AA stable. For our bond rating, OPEB, we've reduced our liability to 46 million and increased our funding up to just shy of 1.1 million. Stabilization, we've got about we closed at 6.8 million, which is the highest that Grafton's ever closed. And we used a little bit of that at the fall town meeting, but after all that's said and done, we're at $5.6 million, which means our current fiscal reserves are 14.7% of the operating budget. Economic development wise, we continue to see mostly residential growth. In 2025, again, there was almost no industrial growth. However, in 2026, fiscal 26, that is, we do see an uptick in industrial growth. That has to do with 8 Millennium and then what we've been able to ascertain out of the UPS development and a couple other small ones. All right, this is the part that everyone will care about. So this is our forecast moving forward for the next 5 years. So these are our revenue projections. We're forecasting that we would go up about 3.5 to 3.4% for the next 3 years, and then it tapers off. I believe that the fiscal year 31 and 32 will actually look very similar to 28, 29, and 30, but it's so far out that we're just a little softer on what we think our revenues are going to look like. So, in a nutshell, we are predicting or projecting a $1.4 million shortfall in fiscal 27. And we'll go deeper into that in a couple more slides. This is the same document that we've showed for the last, I think this is our 4th year with this particular forecast tool. And you can see that we are still projected by fiscal 2032 to be about 9.7 million, 9.8 million in deficit. All of that is obviously changed with every tweak that we do in fiscal 27 or 28 or 29. It all has a ripple effect out. And if you had watched the Finance Committee meeting last Wednesday, you'd note that we were projecting at that time a $2.2 million deficit. So we've already done the majority of the work we would need to do to reconcile this budget down. And we'll go deeper into that. Feel free to ask questions as we go if you'd like. So for fiscal 27, we are looking at our Prop 2.5 growth to be 1.391 million, and we've targeted new growth at $1 million. Next slide. This is our new growth through the years. You'll see that in fiscal 25 we closed at 1.26 million. 1.20 million in sorry, that was fiscal 25. Fiscal 26, 1.2. So we are seeing a little bit of a plateau, and believe that we probably are going to stay around the 1.2 mark until we have some of the bigger developments come online, maybe UPS and some other ones that will kind of spike our growth as we go. All right. Revenues continue to be stable. These are really just for your future reference and also for the reference of people looking at this online. If you go to the next slide, Will, it'll show you that we are expecting a total revenue of basically 85,100,000. Now, before we advance the slide, I do want to point out this is not the revenue number you're going to see on the next slide. That's because not every single one of these revenue categories contribute to the general fund in the way that we are going to account for them here. Okay, so our total revenue is 84,187,765. Our current budget has our total expenses at $85,616,565, which leaves us with a deficit of $1,428,800. Okay, so this is our operating budget as it sits currently. General government, we are up 1%. Public safety currently is projected at a 5.08%. That is almost all the fire chief's fault, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Public Works is actually showing a 24.34% deficit. I have to do some additional math to show what that change actually is, because sanitation lives in that Public Works category, and since we pulled that out into an enterprise fund, it makes the line look like we've cut the Public Work Department by 25%. So we're going to work on that, and then we'll be able to show you kind of a more apples to apples, but it is sub 3% as it sits. Health and Human Services is up 3.4%. Culture and Rec is up 3%. Schools, we don't have the voted budget from the school committee, but given the superintendent's presentation, that percentage is 6.32% up. Unclassifieds, which is where our health insurance and pension lives, is currently projected at 9.4%. And our debt service, it shows an increase of 1.63, which is pretty nominal, for an entire budget percentage increase of 4.68%. So in that unclassified category, we've got our regular townwide insurance, which is our My Insurance liability. That's only up 1% for about $7,000. Retirement and pension, we are pegging at 10%, which is a $350,000 increase. Medicare FICA is another small increase, about $7,000. Health insurance, we're currently projecting a 10% increase, which is $682,000. Blackstone Valley, we have them at 10%, $165,000. That's obviously subject to change. We talked about that at the Finance Committee meeting as well. We're trying to get some advanced numbers from Blackstone Valley and see if we can hone in on that a little bit more. Last year we actually had a decrease, and so it all depends on what trends we're seeing. So that makes that entire line change by about 1.2 million, which is about 9%. So some variables to consider. We have 2 contracts up for renegotiation that we'll be doing in the spring. GMEA and the Grafton Public Library. The budget relies on revenue that is conservative. That may increase as we get more numbers out of the state, but it will not be enough to close the budget. And I want to remind you that we pulled pretty much every lever that we had last year, did the trash, moved money around, and we don't have any levers left to pull, so we have to decide override or cuts, and that will get us to our next slide. So next steps, we need you folks, the elected officials, to offer a policy direction in early January. We will ask you to make that policy direction based on a deficit of 1.4 million. That is a very solid number. Both Mary and I are very comfortable that that is what we're going to be looking at. We need that to be an agreed upon direction from the entire board. So we can certainly, obviously, we're going to have some back and forth on that and what that looks like. We then will develop a reduction or contingent budget based upon what the select board and school committee give for guidance. The school committee is going to give superintendent guidance on what they want to see happen in their budget, and you will have to do the same for the budget as a whole. And then this is why I was talking about the fire chief. I even got a little fireman on the presentation for you.
Why is it green?
Because you're in Grafton, sir. The select board must meet with the fire chief to determine staffing increases, and whether they'll be affirmed and submitted to me. So currently the budget, the fire chief has requested 2 additional staff. They are in the budget. You, along with our strong chief, will need to make a determination of whether or not those stay or go, or some other arrangement is made. And then tell me what you want to see in the budget. Oh, and that's it. So again, this is the standard first pass of the budget presentation. We have a lot more documentation. I've given you folks the budget actuals, and we'll also be giving all of that to the finance committee as well. But this is the first pass, and then we generally go more into a line by line discussion later. But that's kind of where we need your direction, not kind of, that is where we need your direction. So just a quick discussion on that. In other communities, what I generally see is a select board will give the town administrator direction, i.e. we want to see you cut the budget by X%, or we want to see you reduce the budget and protect these areas of services, right? And we want to see you protect public safety or whatever the board's will is. Those are generally the most common. Alongside, we want to see you reduce the budget to not need any additional revenue, or we are willing to take the additional revenue to the voters, meaning an override. And that would trigger us creating a contingent budget versus a reduction budget, which are probably going to be pretty close to the same thing, and anything that you reduce, you move over to the contingent line. But that's essentially what that looks like. So if you've not been through that before and not seen that before, if you do go for an override and you do create a contingent budget, there'll be 2 articles on the town meeting warrant. One is for the budget as balanced. The other one is for the things that you would replace should the override be successful. Any questions?
Who would like to kick it off?
Have you at all considered or began any kind of thinking through of what a contingency budget might look like?
Yes. I'm not going to go any farther into it because I don't want staff or anybody else to start to worry about something that may or may not unfold. I'm certainly, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But yes, I have a list. Plus, I don't want to talk about it in front of Will. He's gonna get
Oh,
emotional.
jeez.
Knew that was coming.
Question, yes. So Evan, the timing, you're asking us to decide on which path we're gonna go down sometime by the end of January. So
I said early January, thinking that it would be the end of January.
so this is the first time we've seen it, and then
Right.
we're not going line item by line item. So I think we got to go through that before we can decide what road we're going to be going down. If we don't want us asking, line items tonight, which we're really not doing, right? So we need a chance to do that and then figure out what direction, I
Yep.
guess. If never really done that before, but that's what you're asking the board to do, is to determine what direction we're gonna go down.
Yeah, so the select board, so the charter says that the town administrator shall create the budget in consultation with the select board.
Right.
So in consultation, really your role is policy only, not day to day. So that's why I'm suggesting that you would do something, i.e. we want you to pursue an override scenario, or we don't want to pursue an override scenario. And if you don't, and we're gonna reduce, then you would create a policy decision that would say, we want to protect these segments of the budget, and then I would go and
Okay.
figure out how to get you to that line.
And we need to meet with the school department before we decide that too, right? Because we're not doing that tonight, so that all has to happen as well, I would think, right?
I would recommend that the board think about adding a meeting in January to come to some kind of consensus, because if you are gonna have an override conversation, you need time to be talking about this in public and building that plan out. What does that look like? What does the contingent budget look like? And so, yeah, that's my recommendation, is that we ramp it up a little bit come January and try to get some kind of direction.
Based on the email changing that the school committee wasn't coming tonight, once again came prepared because it said that Jay was gonna be here, so I can, just like last time, send him, my comments or questions relative to school. Cause I just looked back at the email confirming that it indicated that both Evan and Jay would be here, so to your point, Craig, I think having, Jay here would be helpful. And I just wanted to, so the 1.4 million, shortfall, I understand was different, cause I listened on whatever day it was last week to finance.
Yeah.
What was last year's at this time, or in January?
Same.
Mary, do you remember what we were at last year? Exactly.
Like 1.3?
Yeah, we were about one. That's what I was gonna
Okay.
say too. I think
it was roughly
at this point in the year we were at 1.2.
Okay,
But
thanks.
that was basically our starting point.
Right.
And you reduced it down further. This is the reduced amount. This is not where
Yeah.
you
So the
started
the
last
board,
week even.
right? The board wanted us to be ready for now.
Yeah.
With a budget. So, you know, one of the things I think the pitfalls we fell into last year is that, you know, I could come in here every 2 weeks and give you a different budget because it's going to change and I'm going to have different numbers come in. I'm going to get different information. But if we do that, then you'll just do that all the way to the end, and then we'll still have there's still going to be a deficit if we do nothing other than collect revenue numbers. There's no, you know, aside from the state saying, oh, we're going to fix Chapter 70 and you're going to get all this money, which is highly unlikely, right? So, you know, without that occurring, something like that occurring, this is where you're at.
I believe it was 1.32.
1.32 is
Thank
what it was
That
last
was, that was all the answer I was looking for.
year. Yep. you got it.
Because it was similar timing.
Yep.
And so the revenue numbers for school, that's like spring in terms
Like
of.
Chapter 70 and
Thank
all
you,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we should get our first cherry sheet look in the third week of January is traditional.
Okay.
And then they, you know, go with it from there. But it usually does give you a pretty good snapshot, you know.
And then on our side of it, the UGGA,
Alga,
when do you know what's
same.
similar? Okay,
Yep,
all right.
yep, cherry sheet release.
So mid to late January.
Yep.
For an idea.
Correct.
That's all I've got.
Questions for superintendent are they very specific to line items, or is there a chance that it's
I mean, I
something
went
Evan
through the
can
whole,
answer?
yeah, I went through the whole thing today, so it's fine. I can wait until January.
Yeah, we really need him to answer the question
Mm-hmm.
specifically, I think.
And just while we're talking about that, you know, last time we met with them was what, 8 weeks ago? And I still haven't received the information that I asked for, so.
Yep,
And I wouldn't have had it tonight if they come in, which is not okay. So, not you, Evan.
No, I know.
Them, they're not getting you the information, and I don't know why they're not sending it over, but that would help.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hoff?
for me, it would help, I think, in January to just set up the meetings with school committee, and let's just meet every week in January. And if we don't need the meetings and, you know, or we don't have updates or whatever, then we don't need to do that, but, that would help me a lot to just know that we've got that regular cadence if we're expected to, you know, realistically, we're probably gonna have 3 meetings, before we're being asked to provide that policy. So I think we should just get it set up, if that makes sense.
I think so.
I had one line item question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
In just broad brush, the public safety is obviously a big, you know, you kind of called out our fire chief for that, but, what, just it's the two new employees.
Right, and then the regular like collective bargaining agreement increase, and there's really not a lot else in there.
Which is obviously.
Yeah, police is pretty flat, and
Because that was a big number, right? What was the delta for?
we're just gonna pull it up so I don't do it from memory. So it's 5%, and it's about $250,000.
Okay.
So I mean it
All right.
is.
So that's not. Yeah.
I mean, not compared to the amount of money they have, it's still a good hit to the amount of money I have to move around.
Right.
But you know, overall, again, I think that
So
if
250. So that's salary. That's contractual obligations and two new, adding.
right, yeah, and we've already done pretty much all the shifting around in those budgets we can. So if the chief, and I'm not going to go into all the detail because
Yeah.
the chief's got to present, but you know, if the chief gets two positions, then you would be able to reduce this line item because you don't need that as much. You know, we've already done all those things in the background
Okay. All right.
to get to that.
It's not as
point.
much as I originally thought. 250. Okay.
All right. So as in years past, after today, FinCom and the Select Board get access to ClearGov. You can go look at everything back to 2014 against where we are today, and then I will print out the line item budget for anyone that would like that, and we will get that to you.
At this.
Nope, those are budget to actual. So that's how much. Normally we do that on January 1st, but it's close enough that
Okay.
50% is where we should be. And if you have any questions, let us know.
And for me, it's not. It doesn't look great. I mean, I think we can all accept that. From now, my recommendation is going to be, you know, as an individual board member, that I think we do need to discuss the override possibility. I'm a firm believer that is something that should be decided by the residents and put to a vote. I want to recap a few things because I think they're worth mentioning in this overall discussion, where we touched on no levers left to pull, no rabbits left to find. FY25, the school spent 1.2 million in revolving account money, one-time use. FY26, they spent $1 million from their circuit breaker, reduced staffing by 400,000. That equates to roughly 1.6 million over the last 2 fiscal years that the school have put in from their funding to try and help us close our shortfall. It was noted at the FinCom meeting that through the audits the municipal staff did of recurring budget items and such, we found about 26,000, which is great. And it was, I think, a valuable exercise to do, but really nothing when we're talking about a budget of this size. No sizable impact. Reiterating that we're predicting an 18% health insurance increase for FY26. You are currently working through the GIC program, better inform, I guess I'll say, our subscribers so that they can find a plan that is beneficial to them while also trying to reduce some of the costs associated with that for both the subscriber and the town.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Please.
We're carrying in this budget a 10% increase now.
Okay.
We've reduced it since we've made the switch to GIC, and we're carrying that 10% partly because regardless of where we end up on July 1, the retirees don't move. Or do retirees move July 1? That confuses me every time. But Aetna currently is looking at a 60% increase. So
Right.
we were just holding that until we get our bearings on that.
Just touching on a few things a few notes from that were shared at school committee last week. The largest drivers being contractual salary increases and a large $880,000 dollar increase in our out of district tuition, and then another 230K roughly for transportation, which again is heavily influenced by the out of district students and some of our special needs transportation as opposed to general transportation. All that to say, I think we produce some pretty lean budgets. I don't think there's personally anything that we can trim at this point, or maybe anything is not the right word. There is not a significant change that we can make at this point that is going to close that. These are whatever we discuss in reduction moving forward is going to be a pain point, and people are going to feel it. So to me, I think obviously the next step is coming up with some sort of policy to direct you with how we'd like to proceed, but I would like to see an override contingency in there, and that to be part of our primary focus. Anything else before we take public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a couple comments, I guess. Evan and Mary, I just want to thank you for how you've structured the budget. It's just the granularity of the line items has continued to increase year after year after year, and talk about transparency. It's so granular at this point. Incredibly useful to be able to look at and understand exactly what everything is in each account. So yeah, thanks for that continued work. Yeah, I mean, my feeling on it is just at a really high level. We have used a lot of budget mechanisms, and we're at a place now where we know we're going to need an override. So having the conversations about services and what the specific numbers are going to be, for myself, I'd like to see the sort of, as we looked out into 30 and 31, things got more conservative. I'd like to kind of align those more with the earlier years as we consider if we're going to be thinking about overrides that are more than 3 years. Because we, to the extent possible, I don't want to be asking residents for more money for an override than we think we're going to need, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And as the discussion goes along, it's super early in the conversation, but I would like to see what the path looks like with an override budget this year, but also and the contingency budget and the balanced budget with reductions. And I'd like to see that played out so that we can understand that sort of we've got kind of two paths to get on as we contemplate an override. So I'd like to see how that no override scenario plays out over time. Yes. Yeah, so I think that's all I want to say.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Elmo?
Matt, just to clarify, you're saying you want to see both scenarios. You want to see what it looks like with an override, and if an override doesn't pass, you want to see what that contingency budget looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, so, we went through this last year, and I saw those numbers going out to 2030 something. And I had a feeling that, and we knew this was coming. So, and to your point, Mr. Chair, there is pain. That pain is going to go no matter which way we slice it. So if we do an override, there's still shared pain with all the residents in the town that have to take. Would it be our third override?
Correct.
With more potentially in sight? So I don't know how I could manage that in my personal career, how that could ever happen. The fourth time around, I don't think I'd have a job. I'd probably be fired. We just can't keep doing this. And I know that everybody knows that, but I do think there's people that want to hear that. They want to hear it said here. We can't keep doing that. And I suppose that that's probably a really, really lofty aspiration, but it does need to be said. We have to figure something out. We really do. So, I don't disagree with you, Mr. Chair, about sharing this, responsibility with the town. So I personally, would not be in favor of, preventing the 20 some odd, well, it wouldn't be 20 residents that vote, but however many that vote, they are gonna have to put skin in the game too. And even if they are for the override, they better understand what they're talking about, what they're voting for too. Because that's not just providing level services for the people that work for this town and in schools and everywhere else, but they're creating another obligation, financial obligation, that no matter what anybody says, is not as simple to just like say, just do it. It's just not that easy for people anymore. And this will probably go to vote, and then try it again in 3 years and see what happens. Because we've got to figure out how to do something about this. That's it. Thank you for listening.
I'd like to just, I guess, respond briefly to that. I think the key difference here is in what you're discussing is private sector versus public
Yep.
sector. In the private sector, you have the opportunity to adjust rates. You know, there are measures that you can take to increase or diversify your income that the town does not have. You know,
It's
this is
changed
really
a
it,
lot,
like,
Andy. It's changed a lot.
to
It's not as
you know,
simple anymore. I heard
Sure.
what you're saying, and I agree with you, but there's only so many price increases that my company or any company can continue to pass along. The purchasing population starts to catch on to that, and then they stop buying from you.
It does.
Agree. I'm not even trying.
No,
I'm not
no.
blaming.
Yep.
I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just expressing, I think, a little bit of. So I was probably not elected because of my public sector prowess. I was probably thought of as someone that comes from a different position, and that voice is probably needs to be lent into these kind of conversations. And again, I think ultimately I'm agreeing with you that the responsibility will be shared by the voters. So, you're right. We can do price increases and all those different things, and I've had to be the bearer of that news sometimes 2 and 3 times a year for my customers over the course of my career, and it happens. But it's just tough. It's tough because where does it end? Just that's the other thing. Like, you do have people that come up to you and say, "Dude, when does it stop? Like, at what point do we? Where are we going?" And it's a pretty fair question. And again, it's not an accusation, because there are people in this room that are trying really hard. And there's a person over there, Dr. Cummings, those of us here, are really trying. And you know that if there's anything that I agree with, there's anything that another thing that people should know is that there are people. I mean, look at my face. Everybody's trying, and they don't want this stuff this problem to continue. But anyway, I'm with you.
I appreciate it. Anybody else?
Christy Kilbazinski from the school committee. I just have a quick question. Actually, it's a timing question for you, Evan. So you're saying that you want the board to decide by January. Is that to mean that you'd like them to decide before the school committee takes a vote on our own budget? Because we're not meeting again till January 6th, the school committee.
They're not meeting till January 6th either.
Okay. So when you say then early January, is that the meeting that you expect that?
Well,
So, but then Mr. Often said you wanted to meet 3 times before that.
a decision by end of month.
Yeah, regardless of what the school committee does, this board's gonna have to give some direction. So if the school committee takes till February to decide what their overall budget is, I assume it's not gonna go up.
Right, but we make up over 50% of that budget. So
Yeah, 6.
for 60% of the budget. So for this board to make any decision without the school committee first deciding 60% of the budget seems a little putting the cart in front of the horse there.
Sounds like you need to get to work.
Oh, I'm to work. I'm just asking. I mean, like, we're not meeting tonight, clearly. So is what Mr. Often's saying correct? Are we going to meet every time in January, every week in January? I'm just trying to
I
figure
think
out what we're...
the two chairs are going to have to discuss and come to a consensus on. You know, first, is it something that tonight we can determine if it's something this board is willing to entertain. And then similarly, probably at a school committee meeting, finding out the same. But again, my opinion is that's something the chairs will have to work together on and make happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I was asking.
And just to that point, I mean, the board will decide what we do and when we do it, right? I think there's a process that we need to go through. This is the first time we're looking at this. We're talking about overrides and, giving direction in mid-January or early January. And I don't know what's driving that, but there's a process that we have to go to. We're in step 5, and, the override decision is probably step 20. So there's a lot of things that have to happen between now and then, at least for me, to process this. I'm not trying to delay it, but I think we need to be thoughtful about it and determine where we're going. And to Mark's point, we have to determine what's driving this, right? That's another discussion, the budget, but what's driving these constant needs for overrides every few years, and that discussion needs to happen, because we can't keep putting ourselves in this position, and there's ways not to. So that discussion has to happen too. So we're not here again saying that we need to go after taxpayers for more money. So we're going to get there, to your point. Yeah, you have to provide us with a voted upon budget, and we need to figure out what we're going to do.
One more quick question to Mr. Dolphin. You had mentioned before about going like line item by line item. Do you foresee in select board having per se a workshop and doing that? Going
the
line
select
item?
board doesn't go line item by line item.
Or cost center by cost center? Rather?
They want to see it, which they're going to. This is how we traditionally do it. I go live tomorrow, and you get all of it after we do the larger conversation. But they've got to give a policy direction. So
Okay.
protect these segments, reduce by X amount, look at a contingent budget, all of those things.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just if I might, oh, sorry, I would like to have Jay here prior to, I'm not ready in January 6th, I'll tell you that. So I would like to have the Jay in at
So
least another time.
to Craig's question, I'm the one driving this because it's my job to create a budget. And last year, nobody gave any direction, like for a long time. It was very ambiguous. We did like 6 or 8 models. We can't do that again, because by the time you get to the end, there's no time left. So when we spoke last year, I was told to pull all the levers, and then we'd have a conversation again. And so I've done all of those things, but I need direction, and Jay needs direction, so that we can create this budget in a way that we can then go to the taxpayer and make them informed about what we're doing. And so that's, I don't expect you to be ready to go on January 6th, but I do want to express the urgency that we need to have consistent meetings. Normally we don't do this until February. We've done all our due diligence as best we can to deliver this for December 16th, and now we need that urgency to figure out what we're going to do. To Mark's point, the contingent budget, I don't know where the line will be broken between the school and the town, and who's got to find who's going to move what and where, but I'm close to done with where it would be.
I'll just say I take exception with your statement of there being no direction last year. I feel that I did provide direction, and it was a collaborative effort. I was listening to taxpayers, and I had a very clear sense of what may or may not happen. And so I think that the process proceeded. We met whenever that was last time, however many weeks ago you're saying, and I don't know that I got anything out of that meeting. And we're still kind of, I appreciate that we've got some numbers. I'll just leave it at that, I suppose. I need more information, certainly. And if that means we have to meet every single week, that's fine. But I don't want to meet just to say the same things over and over again. If there's new information, if there's something compelling, then absolutely. But for me, I would expect to have Jay here at a early meeting so that some of my specific questions can be answered. Again, I'm answering to the residents day in, day out. So the more information I can have, the better prepared I am to be out there. And ultimately, it's the residents' decision. So
It's sounding like we are all in favor of tentatively scheduling meetings every Tuesday in January at this point. Again, pending, you know, if there's a week in there where we have no updates, we could choose not to post at that point. But is that feeling correct? Is that accurate? Everybody on
I
board with
can't
that?
guarantee my schedule. I would like to try. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know, Mr. Chair.
Just looking.
Okay.
So we meet the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th, and then maybe the 27th. We want to schedule maybe 3 and then see if we need a 4th, or I don't know what you guys want to do. 6th, 13th, and 27th, or I don't know. I mean,
I'm not available the 20th.
I'm not available on the 13th, and the 6th I'll be on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point,
See.
I'm going to suggest we consider posting for all four, plan on posting for all four. If there's a reason why we, in session, decide that a meeting is not necessary, then we cross that bridge then. We will try to be as inclusive of everybody as we can throughout that process, understanding that there may be a couple meetings that members are not able to attend. Certainly, in between those times, you are welcome to provide feedback and questions, to the level of information that you have that we can then try and work through in that meeting.
it's a good approach.
Okay. Angelina, you had your hand up first.
Chair, just so you know, you do have one hand on Zoom.
We'll deal with them in a moment.
Angelina Correa, 11 Christopher Drive. I'm also on the Finance Committee. I just wanted to say that this is no surprise to anybody on the Finance Committee, and I know it's not a surprise to you guys that we're in this position. We knew about this. We knew this was coming. We made cuts last year that we knew we were going to have to make up for, and this is not a surprise. So I think what we need is, and I think what Evan's asking for, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but what I'm hearing is that we need direction, not necessarily line item specifics, but like Evan's job is to manage the budget. You guys is to give us direction on where we need to cut or what we need to do if we need an override. But this is not something that we should be surprised about, or that we need to, take a lot of time to consider why it's happening. It's happening because we can raise revenue by 2.5% and our costs go up by more than that. And we're not unique. Most towns in our class are in the same exact position. That article that Evan sent out a few weeks ago talked about how we're all in the same position, so many towns. So I don't think that this is something that we need to mull over the reasons for so much as we need to pick a direction. And if there are services that we're offering that are not required to be offered, and those are things that we want to talk to residents about cutting or that we want to put on the chopping block, then those are decisions, those are the tough decisions, and that's why we elected you guys. That's what you guys are here to help direct the town. But I think this whole idea of why are we here is kind of like, we can't talk about that anymore. We know why we're here. And we just have some decisions to make.
So thank you for that. And I think you're directing that towards me. What I'll tell you is
I wasn't, but
it's not, we're not surprised.
some
What you
people
see
are
on maybe on some
surprised.
of our, I don't feel anybody on
This
this,
board knows.
on this side is surprised at all.
Okay.
And in fact, I don't know if you heard me, but I pointed at Mary and said, we knew this was coming. I've been sitting in a lot of, I sat in a bunch of budget meetings last year, and I saw those numbers. I saw the red 5 years out. So I'm not surprised.
Good.
No one is surprised. What I think it is that this is tough.
No,
The
it's
decisions that
definitely-
have to be made weigh heavily on us. So it's not I don't get surprised. I get a feeling of deep responsibility and wanting very much to do the right thing for everyone. And everyone includes people that pay the taxes and includes people that work here. It's everyone. So it's not a surprise. It's just hard. And the idea of not talking about why, I don't really recall us talking about that a lot. And if we do, then maybe I missed the meeting, or maybe you do.
It was just a
and-
few minutes ago that Craig was saying that we needed to figure out why we were here.
And I said that too. So, and I guess that's why I thought you were talking about me. And it's cool. And I want you to talk about all of this, if it's me, Craig, or anybody else. But I think, and maybe what it is that I'll speak for myself, but Craig and I do come from the private sector, and the decisions are very quickly very different. So, and I don't want to speak for Craig, but they're swift and they're just done. It happens. And that's where it's not a surprise, it's just a big responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I think what it's going to come down to is we are probably going to bring this to the town to vote on. So really, it will be up to those people that vote on it versus just the 5 of us. But I'm comfortable in asking, how did we get here? I like to have that discussion, and maybe we don't have to do it. We're not going to do it tonight.
So,
But it's Angelina, right? I should know that because you live across the street.
Right.
But it's and a lot of people say this stuff like, about us or this, and it's just not that simple. And it isn't that, I don't want you to conclude that we're surprised. And I don't want you to think that we don't care. And I don't want other people to think that. And there's going to be a lot of people watching this, and they're going to be wondering, like, how did we get here? We know, sort of. You know as well as anybody. But there's a lot of people that don't. And they will want to have that question answered someday. And yes, thank you for whoever voted me for electing me to do this. We were elected to do this. And we're trying. So, just from my perspective, I'm not sure. I knew this was coming for a year. Sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I yield the floor.
Right. Just want to amend something because I didn't mean to insult Anne Marie or anybody. We did have direction. I don't think that in hindsight we had enough direction early on enough, and maybe that was because of the process that we were following of pulling all the levers. But in hindsight, I would like us to push hard into January and try to get that.
I think that's great.
Understood.
I agree.
Ken Remlad, 2 Mountain View Lane, North Grafton. I'm listening to everything that's going on here, and I was watching all your charts up there. So, looking at all those charts, it looks like we're going to be asking for a 2.5 for the next 5 years because we're in the red. We were in the red every single year up to 2031, correct?
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to be asking for 2.5 for the next 5 years. So my question is, if you know this 5 years in advance, how can anybody go in front of the town meeting and ask to spend $400,000 on a piece of wetland when you know that we're going to be asking for 2.5?
Sure.
2.5. I mean, that's pretty deceitful to me because I don't recall anybody ever saying, "Hey, if we buy this, you got to know that we're going to be going into on a 2.5.
Right.
Well,
So
We're going to be asking for 2.5."
Let's, because there is a legitimate answer to that question. Let's just get
Are
that.
you finished though? Do you have any,
But it's, so like the same thing happened in 2020. I was at a meeting at the meeting when we were laying people off and we were looking for $2.5 million to spend on a super park. It got voted down, but we were still asked to spend $2.5 million on a super park when we were laying people off. And nobody ever said that. I don't recall ever hearing anybody ever say, "Hey, listen, this is October, but in January we're going to be talking about going into 2.5." You know what I'm saying?
I do, and I think I'm trying to word this appropriately.
Okay.
I think the board is aware of some of the mechanisms with how we purchased that land that the public may not be entirely familiar with, which is why I'd like Mr. Broussard to answer your question briefly before, just so you have a better understanding of.
Okay.
So the Providence Road parcels that we purchased for 400,000 plus, those were purchased with community preservation funds. So none of those funds can be used to offset your deficit or used in the operational budget. They're different pots of money, so that's why we would be pursuing them in parallel.
I understand that. It's just like, as a homeowner.
Yep.
If I have a bill and I have to make a decision if I'm gonna spend $20 on ice cream, or if I'm gonna spend $20 on prescriptions, which way am I gonna go?
Right, but
So, as a select board, I know because I've seen it happen in the past where they've said, okay, we have $200,000 left in this budget, let's move it to this budget.
But we can't do that with CPA funds. You, just like you couldn't buy ice cream with your HSA, health flex spending account. Yeah, that money would have to go towards your prescription.
Right.
We can't put.
But all the money in the
CPC
town
towards-
budget, no matter what you call a budget, it's still our money, the taxpayers' money, that needs to be spent on things that are more like a new fire truck or a new police cruiser or something like that, versus buying wetland for $400,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, hand on Zoom, please.
Hi, Dan Kusher, 79 Keith Hill Road, also a member of the Finance Committee. I just wanted to respond to the kind of analogy that I believe it was Mr. Alamo brought up about increasing your prices for customers. And I think that's not really the right comparison with the private sector. When you're a customer, you're paying money and you're receiving something specific in return for the money you're paying. That's not what taxpayers are. Taxpayers are more like investors. We're investing in the town, and the return we get is not money, like a real investment. It's public good. It's the services that the town provides, and they're not all things that I personally use. And some of them are things that I use more than other residents in town. But it's not an exchange. I'm not getting those things in exchange for my tax payment. And so really what we're doing is when you put an override on the ballot, you're really asking the investors of the town if they want to continue investing in this level of services and public good that they are receiving as the return on their investment, or if they want to reduce those returns that they get. That's really the comparison, if you want to think of it in private sector terms. And so I think the question is really, do we want to let taxpayers have a say in whether or not we continue with the same level of services or reduce them? And I don't think we need to have the exact precise numbers in order for the board to make a decision on that. Waiting for every line item to go through, waiting for the precise final number from the schools, waiting for the UGA number. You don't need all those details in order to decide whether you want this to be a decision that the residents get to weigh in on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Mr. Elmo.
Yeah, Dan, I agree on one part of that with the private versus public. What Andy was saying is that there are levers that the private sector can use where a public sector public can't use those same levers. And I was just referring to one particular lever that Mr. Chair mentioned. And that is true that it's not the exact same comparison, but it's an comparison or a comparison. We're talking about revenue in, expenses out. And so how does the company do it versus the town do it? I realize that that probably doesn't have the exact right place in this kind of discussion. I'm only sharing some thoughts and insights from my perspective. And there's also other thoughts and perspectives from that I've experienced that go beyond that are very similar, like cutting. The cutting is a different conversation. It just simply happens. So thankfully, we have an opportunity to communicate about that here publicly and coming from different places to lend our insights and our experience to this conversation so that it isn't exactly like that. So you're right, it's not it's not a perfect comparison, but it is a comparison. And then on the other part where you're talking about potentially bringing this to the town to vote on, I think that's probably going to happen, Dan. So that'd be my response to that.
Any other public comment? Any other commentary from the board or things we wish to discuss on the budget topic? At this point, it feels like we have a decent starting place for our next direction. I will reach out to the chair of the school committee and discuss the upcoming meeting schedule. And we'll start working on Evan's requested policy direction after the first of the year. Okay. Is the chief in for the new appointees discussion? Would everybody be agreeable to taking our agenda out of order and discussing the item C requiring new appointees so that we can get the chief out of here?
Sure.
Okay. Yep. Great. So we'll then move on to item C, consider requiring all new appointees to meet the select board. We can kick the conversation off if you want, and then you can come up, or you can just come and grab a seat from now.
Come up and grab a seat. I just wanted to see how it goes, and if you have any questions for me, then I'm happy to answer.
Ms. Dauphin, is something you suggested, so I'm gonna hand it to you.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Yeah, I asked it to be put on the board, on the meeting, and it just doesn't go for the fire department, although I appreciate you being here, Chief, and sitting through that wonderful, enjoyable budget discussion. So, so when it comes to new firefighters that you're vetting and you and Evan are deciding on, we're kind of the third layer of kind of review and we affirm the appointment. So, since I got back on the board, I noticed that we're not, the recruits or the new members of the department aren't coming in. And so we're asked to vote on them. I don't want to rubber stamp things per se. And I trust that you guys are, doing that, but we are part of the process. We're another layer of, of the process, and not that I'm looking to grill, new members of the department or any people that are volunteering for the town. But if I'm asked to vote on it, it's nice to have them come in. It's nice to meet them, let them come to the microphone, introduce themselves. We can ask them why they joined the department. I think there's some, and then when we see them around town, we know who they are. We know they're part of your team. You have a chance to show them off. You've done a great job recruiting new members, as we know, which was desperately needed. So I just feel like if the board is going to vote on new people, whether it be a member of the fire department or a committee member, it's nice to meet that person. If I'm going to give them my vote, then it's nice to have them here and to get to meet them in person. So that's all I'm asking to do. And we do it for the police department. It's always nice to have them come in. They usually bring in a team, and it's one of the nicer parts of the things that we do, and it's part of our, it's kind of a community thing too. So that's why I asked to be put on the agenda, because at some point, we used to do that years ago, but at some point that has stopped. So I wanted to put it before the board and see if they would support having new appointees come in. and that's it. That's
Like I said, I'm in favor either way. I just want to make sure that if there's a lapse in time from when they're available to be put on, that they're not held up from doing that, because a lot of it is the excitement, and if we allow that to peter out a little bit, sometimes it's tough to keep them going. You know, we've run into stuff even with appointments for employment physicals and stuff. You know, some people that are eager to get on, it's great, and then you're like, okay, we can't get you the physical until this amount of time, and then maybe it's good for us that they don't follow through, but on the other hand, I want to make sure that things move in a timely fashion for us, and that's my concern. And like I said, I'm more than willing to come in and see all of you all the time. And the more people I bring in, the better we are as a department and as a town. So I'm fine either way. I just don't want it to hamper our hiring process.
right. No, and we don't either. When we want to support you, you know, in your appointment, I would just ask you to figure out the timing, and so that it, you know, it works out. We certainly don't want to hold you up either, but if you can make the timing work, it's nice if they come in and, you know, we get to introduce to them and we get to thank them for their service and ask a question. That's it.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Sure.
So what happens if they don't meet the 15 days? What are we doing with the recruits or the employees or whoever?
Can you back that out just a little bit and explain?
Yeah, so the charter says that the board has 15 days to affirm either the chief's appointment or my appointment. And so the way we've been operating, and this goes for every department, including the police department, is that the board had said that as long as it's not a department head, or like a lieutenant or somebody of that level, that they don't need to come in, and that we will get our appointees affirmed, even if it's post 15 days. And we did that because what happens quite often, you know, if I have to make an offer to an employee, my offer is contingent upon you affirming that within 15 days. So if you're meeting in 2 weeks, so I have to tell an employee that I can offer them the job, but it's subject to affirmation 2 weeks from now. And then they go and give their 2 week notice, if they're still interested, and they wait around for 2 weeks. So now we're a month out for hiring after advertising for a month. So we're 2 months for every position. So I think there's a difference between, you know, meeting folks versus not moving the process forward until they're met. So the chief has positions he's trying to fill. I have positions I'm trying to fill. And that's really how we got to where we are today. I think part of the conversation at the time was also so that the chief wasn't here every meeting, since he works at night quite a bit. So that was part of that conversation at the time. But my concern is that what happens if we don't meet the timing? What's the process? I mean, by default, the select board affirms after 15 days. But you know, like I said, this was really a pragmatic conversation about making ourselves competitive to get people in. Like the chief said, excitement. For us, it's trying to fill positions as quickly as possible. We've had, just in this building alone in the last 4 years, 45 turnovers. And so it's really just about getting butts in the seats. So that's all. That's how we got to where we are today.
Anybody have any feedback?
I like it when people come in and we can talk to them, we can congratulate them. I like it when we get to know them. The police officers do that, and that's different. I know it's a little bit different, but I like when they come in and they share their thoughts. Go ahead.
No, so I want to, just to be clear, they do come in, but you almost never make that 15-day. So they're already appointed. Sometimes they've been working for months before they come in here. So I think having people come in and meet the board and get to know people, I think that's a great aspect to it. My only concern, and it's purely on moving people through the system, is that I don't want, or I fear that we're going to get into a place where we're going to start losing candidates or losing people that are interested because of just the timing of doing everything in government is slow. So that's all. That's all it is.
So, you know, perhaps I agree with Craig, sorry. Sorry, Craig.
Have you met?
Yeah.
About 35 years ago.
We should get a different name, please.
Anyways, sorry, Craig. Or I agree with Craig. Let me back it up. And it is nice to, you know, to meet folks. That's why when I first got on this board, I made a point to meet people in this building, even though it wasn't really, it was kind of frowned upon at the time. So I agree. It would be, I like the idea of having folks come in here, not only just for us to meet them, but even, you know, the public then if they watch this or people who are here, always nice to have a face to a name. But I appreciate then if that's holding you guys up on this 15-day thing, then that doesn't really work either. So, you know, is it that we, so to your point, Craig, it's, you know, in order for you to affirm, you don't want a rubber stamp, but it sounds like, you know, I don't know if we could back on that and say we do want to meet folks and just it might not always be, they might already have been.
You know, up until now, I've any officer appointments that we've done, we've brought in, and I've talked to Craig about this, about doing where we will be instituting a new policy. We call it our new employees auxiliary, and by the definition and just general you know, fire service in the nation, that's not a normal thing to call what we do in normally as probationary firefighters. So we're looking into changing that and having the probationary firefighters go through a whole program that when they go through the program, get their firefighter 1-2, do our checklist, do all the training they need to do, show the dedication. We know they're, you know, worthy of being firefighters. When they're promoted as firefighters, I would be more than happy to bring them in. You know, I'm looking to do a thing where they earn a shield for their helmet and all that stuff when they do that. It would also limit the number of times that, well, not necessarily limit, but we'd put a lot of people on in the last few years, and a lot of those people haven't worked out, whether it's we've set them up for their physical and they don't show up, or they get their physical and then, you know, hey, you got to contact your captain to get gear and stuff. And it's like whether they all of a sudden had to move or had a change of heart, and, you know, right down to we've been ghosted by certain people. So I just don't want to, you know, go through all the motions for something that's not, that somebody that's not dedicated or that we haven't figured out is dedicated to the position. So that's something I would like to do, is have them, you know, when they get promoted to regular status firefighter, we could do that. Or like I said, I'm more than willing to do anything, you know. Yeah, love this room, the bright lights are excellent. But
Our green,
you know,
wall. Oh, wait a minute.
yeah.
We can change that.
That's like Millbury and Northbridge. Listen, I'm not looking to hold up the process. My thing is to have them come in, to get to meet them, to thank, you know, the whole thing. We are asked to affirm the appointment, which, you know, we're here to, you know, we take the time to be here too. It's our part of our responsibility. So I would just say, for me, just do the best you can to make it work. I mean, I don't want to hold up the train. I know you guys have vetted these people. It's not, you know, I'm not going to, for me, I wouldn't, you know, I'm not going to crucify somebody that comes in, you know, and start interviewing them.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not our job. That's your job, right? You work with them every day, not me, right? We're a small town still. I want to, you know, it's nice to know the members of the department. And just sitting here with a name on a piece of paper, how would you feel if you're just pointing somebody that you had no idea who they were?
Yeah, no, I
It's like
understand
kinda-
where you're coming from. Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's fair to the board. So that's me.
in my opinion, I think that stipulation is a valid one, that you added, you know, making sure they've you know, we've identified them as a viable candidate at that point, somebody who's gonna put in the effort, rather than introducing everybody and, you know, half of them leave or what have you. You know, I think in this conversation, we're probably getting hung up on some terminology here, you know, when we say vetting versus meeting or interviewing versus meeting. You know, I think I appreciate where you're coming from with rubber stamping, and I can see where it comes across like that. To me, I have less of a problem with that, because I think the role of this board has evolved. I'm not qualified to interview a firefighting candidate and determine if they are right for that position or not. And I don't think there's any question that I'm going to ask them night of that is going to radically change their trajectory in this whole process. So because of that, I don't think it's necessary for us to vet per se, but I do think it is nice when they come in and we get the chance to meet them, and, you know, once they've kind of hit that milestone, and have that discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
What if the chief, and I'll just float this out there, but what if the chief comes in quarterly for his check-ins? So what if we continue to do the process as we've been doing it? The chief can continue to put people on and get people in the process as quickly as possible. But to the best of his ability, once a quarter, when he comes in, he will bring all the people that he has appointed, and they can say hello. And
I mean, for me, I like that, because the next point I was going to hit on is similar. Again, this is a call a fire department, so these people have jobs. I don't want to do anything that interferes with, you know, their weeknight schedule. If there's some commitment that they have to make, you know, I don't think they should have to choose between, you know, getting in the 15 days, getting affirmed for a volunteer role on that versus taking a night off from work or whatever that scenario may be. So, yeah, to I think Evan's point, the quarterly, you know, grouping could definitely fit the bill for me.
That's not what I asked for. So, I mean, it's an idea, but I still think we're still rubber stamping it. So I would like them to come in without holding them up, and at all possible, just have them come in. And not to drag you out, Eric, but it's up to the board what you want to do. I don't want to just vote for people that I don't even know.
So if I might, I
too
mean,
much
can
to
we
ask.
just kind of compromise in that, to the best of both of your abilities, you bring folks in, you know, on the day that we're appointing them, and if that doesn't work, that's okay. You can proceed with what you're doing, because I think all of our points, we never have interviewed anyone that any of you have brought in here, so that isn't the intent of this. I don't think at all. It's just purely to, you know, face to a name, and I think it's always lovely when the chief brings in folks for us to meet. So, and I think that the public also probably appreciates that. So, to the extent that it works out in a given month, that within those 2 meetings, some folks can come in, fabulous. And if it's week 3 or week 2, whatever it is that we don't meet, it can be pushed out and they can still be, you know, brought on board. Greg, how do you feel about that?
This is taking way too long. I'll make a motion to require all new appointees to meet with the select board within the 15 days, per the requirement, whenever possible. Okay, not gonna, if it doesn't happen, if the timing doesn't work, I just ask you guys to do the best you can to make it work. If it doesn't work, then, but still have them come in after the 15. That's it. That's my motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? With that statement, did you say all municipal staff?
All new appointees.
All new appointees.
That's how it was written. That's how it was written on the agenda. So that's how I put it.
But we would, I mean, our current stance is that for municipal staff anyways, it's department heads and above.
But do we appoint? We don't appoint
staff, do we?
We affirm the appointment of
Inform
staff.
all staff.
Everybody.
So
Everybody. So if I need a custodian, I gotta wait to make I can't have them start until you've affirmed them. Which is why we came up with the literal rubber stamping process that we have now, because you're not going to interview them. That's
Right.
That's how we got here.
So that's the only point I'm trying to make, and I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be pedantic about it, but like right now, if I need a nighttime custodian and we post the job and I get somebody that's interested, I can start them right away and get the work done. And that's how the board has been proceeding.
Right.
But-
Well, that's the important part, right, is you get them on board. So do that. If it can be within the 15 days, fine. If it can't, it can't. And then just.
Okay.
Ask them to
I
come
think
in.
that was
So-
the motion,
Yeah, whenever possible.
Yep, got it.
So,
whenever possible.
Any additional discussion?
I guess just a little, just a little. So I'm not in favor of this. I'm gonna vote against it, but, in principle, you know, I like seeing people turning up to our meetings. I definitely want to, it's nice to be able to have somebody come in, meet them, and then see them out in town. That's great. But I don't, for myself, need to meet every single appointment that we have, across the board. So, for me, that kind of requirement just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I understand why other board members may have different opinions, so.
I'm gonna echo, Mr. Hoffman with that. I won't be voting in favor as it stands. I think, I don't think we need to bring in every municipal staff member, that we hire, whether it's in the 15-day period or not. I'd prefer we stick with department heads and above. And, you know, again, whether we're getting our too deep into vetting versus interviewing, or vetting versus meeting, I'm fine with, you know, meeting people. But I don't personally feel the need to interview everybody that's hired here. I don't think there's anything that we're going to ask at the 11th hour that is going to disqualify anybody who comes here. If there's something major that we're aware of, it would. I'm confident that it would have been caught earlier in the process. So again, I'm not opposed to asking people to come in with more frequency, but not in favor of it as is.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Alamo.
My vote to affirm this will be whenever possible and not to further interview, although I did spend some time in a fire simulation, so I might have some credibility in that regard. But I would absolutely not at all want to consider intruding on the interview process, more so to affirm, congratulate, see in person, whenever possible, to not hold up. That's what I seconded. So, but definitely not to interview. So if you're writing that motion and if it passes, it's not about interviewing. It's definitely about just affirming and in a celebratory way. I really love when we do that. And you have done that before, by the way, now that I think about it. I've seen people come up here and tell their story, and
Yeah,
it's great.
We do that at this point with officer promotions, so.
Okay, so I guess that's where my head is at on this. My head and my heart are in that regard,
Right.
or in that area.
Anybody else? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, motion passes 3-2. Thank you for coming in tonight, Chief, and
Thanks for
having that
Discuss.
discussion.
See you on the 6th.
Okay, jumping back for our last agenda item, we have our annual license renewals. Hi, Evan.
Hi. I thought you were throwing it over to me, so that's why I was
Yeah,
looking at you.
if you'd like to.
I don't need it thrown over to me, unless you have questions. So this is the annual process we do every year. You can vote them in a block unless you have specific questions, although we did have a conversation earlier today, Craig, Andy, and I on the prep call, that the board may want to consider withholding the license, liquor license for Chengdu Fontan Restaurant. That's the old Klondike. We've started working on this. We're doing something else in a parallel process, but the board could consider withholding granting that license as we try to ascertain either what's happening with that property or maybe help spur a conversation with that owner.
I'm in support of that.
Yeah, that was kind of what I talked to these guys about. It's like, you know, he's been applying for liquor licenses for I don't know,
like 20
12
years.
years, yeah,
Yeah, it's been,
15.
Cindy thought it was closer to 20.
Yeah, it could be, and, you know, the building is, you drive by there, you see what it is, it's an eyesore, it's a safety hazard, it's not good, and obviously has no intention of operating a business there, which is unfortunate, you know, for the town. But
So-
why would we continue to give them a liquor license, right? So, but maybe it'll get them, you know, I'd love to have a conversation
Yep.
with them, you know.
Yes. So all that's, not to cut you off, the only thing you would have to do, Mr. Clerk, if you were gonna make a motion to do these in a block, is to say that we are amending that list by removing Chengdu Fontan off of that list, and then your motion would be as amended.
And we're okay to do that, like,
Probably.
Did you ever, I had asked Evan to send a letter.
I did.
And we didn't, do we ever hear anything back?
Nope, and so that's the parallel process,
Perfect,
because
yeah.
now we're in step 2.
Great.
And so we've got something else underway.
You had floated the idea of the Grafton Inn as well. Is that something else we'd like to pursue, or
Yeah.
just the Chengdu property?
I saw
think-
fire something or other there
I think
today.
just Chengdu. I mean,
Not
the
you
inn
guys,
is
but
fairly recent, and
Fixer Upper
we
guys.
certainly don't want to do anything to upset the apple cart if it is for sale, and,
Yeah.
and there's value with that, even though they would have to transfer it for that building to have a license. I think is important because we're hoping there's potential there.
Very good.
Okay. I think we take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the 2026 annual licenses as per the list included in the select board meeting packet for the following: common vitular, garage license class 2 and 3, music, inn holder, and pool table. And I move the board vote to approve the 2026 annual liquor licenses as per the list included in the select board meeting packet for the following:
As amended.
restaurant, all,
Amended.
I'm gonna do that at the end.
You're gonna do it at the end? Okay, I apologize.
I
apologize.
I would
trying
like
to
to,
help.
we'll talk about this later.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so the following would include restaurant, all alcoholic beverages, restaurant wine and malt beverages, package store, all alcoholic beverages, package store wine and malt beverages, inn holder, all alcoholic beverages, club, all alcoholic beverages. Licenses will require a 110 and 304 inspection, are contingent upon final approval from the fire department and building department. Licenses will be renewed in accordance with all requirements, conditions, and approvals established by town boards and departments. No liquor license will be issued without an approved certificate of inspection. All of that said, with the exception of, or to amend, with the exception of Chengdu.
/ Fontan Restaurant Inc. maybe?
Slash what?
Just
The
the whole
full name.
name for Fontan Restaurant Inc.
Oh, okay, what is it called again?
You can just say so moved.
So moved.
No, I so moved.
I so moved, thank you.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any additional?
It's not as
discussion?
easy as it looks.
Just under
Really?
discussion,
That's
I'm
gonna
just
stick
gonna
after
recuse
this?
myself from the vote because I have a family member that's on the list, so I'll abstain from voting.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. Thank you. Okay, select board reports.
Bye, chief.
Goodbye, Eric. Mr. Chief.
I'll go quickly. So just a couple things. I've been attending they're calling it a conference. It's a series of seminars from MHP on affordable housing. A lot of really good information. Out of the last one, there came some discussion about there's a new Mass General law that allows some tax exemptions to property owners who voluntarily rent at affordable rates, which I thought was kind of interesting. So it's not anything that is actionable at this point, but it's something that we're sort of looking into to see if it's feasible. And then yeah, the other one was just I had a really good opportunity to spend a little bit of time with the Webelos and PAC 107. So that was really fun. I showed them the town reports, which they were completely bored by. Brutal, yeah. But it was fun. We had a good conversation, and so yeah, I thank PAC 107 for the invite.
Thank you.
I can say a couple things. We've had a couple of municipal waste. Am I saying that wrong every time?
Municipal solid waste. but-
Yes, municipal solid waste committee meetings, and as Evan, maybe that wasn't tonight. Did you speak to this tonight at all, or no?
I did
It was a
not.
Finance committee
Yeah.
meeting. You've mentioned it.
Yes, I think so.
somewhere. That we're chugging along.
there too.
We're meeting again early in the new year, and we've kind of given some specific direction. I guess specifically to Evan in terms of getting some numbers for us relative to toters and what that looks like, and bags and what that looks like. So we're moving along. It's a good committee. Evan's doing a lot of the works, certainly in terms of gleaning numbers. But I think that we have a good group.
It is a good group, yeah, I agree.
And we'll have an answer, relatively shortly, for folks. I think maybe just generally, trash removal for residents is going to go up. So just to throw that out there. The fitness court opened a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, and that was, I think, well received by folks, including the people from Blue Cross Blue Shield and the National Fitness Campaign, who really did a lot of work towards making this happen, in addition to the grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then just the National Fitness Campaign and how they just kept us moving forward. So for me, I think it's been well utilized when I go by, and I've utilized it, and even on the Grafton Celebrates the Holidays. I'm always, way back from when I was on recreation, it was called something else. There were folks out there that day. So I'm excited about that being up here, and I hope that residents come up and use it. It's open to everybody. There's no fees. There's no signing up for anything. Just off you go. We did have an open space and rec meeting, which I did not attend for no reason other than just I forgot. There is some information in our packet from Dave relative to some of the discussion about land conservation restrictions, etc. But that's in there, and I unfortunately was not there. And then the TIF committee, which I'm also serving on, we've had a few, maybe 2 or 3 meetings, and essentially, and maybe if you've watched the planning board recently, a few weeks ago, the applicant came before the planning board, and they had some specific things that they needed her to do, even just for them. But for us on TIF, it's a little premature, given that she doesn't own the property yet. She's just still working through due diligence relative to her P&S, and the TIF would be granted on upgrades. So we notified the applicant of that, and now she's going through the planning process. And that's where we landed with that.
Thank you.
Couple things. So Tufts, me and Evan been trying to get them back in a room, and so we got some emails flying now, which is good. So they're picking a date, I think sometime in January. They're gonna throw at us to try and get us to talk about the pilot and to also talk about the development of Discovery Drive, which it's only been 25 years. So we're gonna try and change some of the agreements on that with DCAM and Tufts, and see if we can get some attraction to that property with the help of WBDC too. If we can pull that all together, it's not going to be easy, but we're trying. One thing I heard the other day is that unfortunately the folks pulled out of St. Philip's Church. They were in front of the planning board going through the process, and it was nothing the planning board did. It was just, I think, them internally, it's just a numbers game, I think, with the renovation costs, and they decided that it just wasn't doable for them. So that's unfortunate, because that was such a great fit for that property and the building, and certainly something the town could really use. So that was too bad. And other than that, we have an EDC meeting tomorrow night. We have a couple representatives from the Marlboro EDC, which is, they have pretty robust program over there, so we're hoping to learn some things there. Grafton
time?
celebrates the holidays was great, and the Common, they did a great job on the Common too. Looks really nice when you drive through town.
When's that meeting tomorrow?
EDC?
Yeah.
It's down at the cable studio. We have our
What time?
7?
7, yeah.
Question to Craig and or Evan. I did have that as a question for this evening, this the Tufts thing. And so in the interim, since July 1, what are we collecting just on the
So the-
previous agreement?
The agreement specifies this fiscal year. So as soon as that gets enacted,
It'll be retro?
Yeah.
Okay.
they said that the agreement itself, they had just a couple little things, but they didn't specify what the little things were. So we're gonna get back together with them, and
Yeah.
I don't think they're.
Then we'll have to meet with the
Yeah,
board.
and you guys will have to vote it. You folks will have to vote it.
For the pilot specifically?
Yep.
Okay. I got to serve on an Eagle Scout Board of Review for Troop 107 last week. Just want to congratulate Jeremy, who was the scout who earned his Eagle. He designed and built the 5 outdoor benches that you may have seen at the Willard House and Clock Museum. Really put a lot of thought into them, knowing they would be outside. He, wanted something durable, comfortable, and also in line with the, historic aspects of the Willard grounds. So, just congratulations to Jeremy and his family on that hard-earned achievement. Just, I think of interest for residents, at the Water District Commissioners meeting this past week, they instituted a rebate policy geared towards water efficiency upgrades that residents can do. It is first come, first served. They currently have a $10,000 budget, and those funds will be distributed until they're exhausted for the fiscal year, but it's a program that they expect to continue. So if you are a water district customer and you make some sort of water efficient appliance or bathroom updates, whatever it may be, you could be eligible for a rebate. So I think that's a good program. Anyway, TA report.
Yeah, so I only have a couple things tonight, Mr. Chair. One is we just started working with the Great American Rain Barrel program again. So we're going to do the subsidized rain barrels in the spring. Really have a kickoff date. Pickup date will be sometime in mid-May.
May 16th.
May 16th, right. So we're just working on the date to get the website live, and then we can push that out again. So that's pretty exciting. We've had some pretty decent success with that over the last 3 years, I think it is. And then lastly, just notifying residents, we're going to be putting up signs and pushing this information out, but we are closing the municipal center Friday at noon for the annual staff holiday party. I believe you all got invites for that, so if you have time, stop by. Staff love to see you there. It's a good time. Everybody's really relaxed, and we, don't get a lot of chance to get everybody in one room at the same time, different departments that don't overlap and stuff. So, if the select board's available, feel free to stop by. Otherwise, that's all I have for this particular thing. It's been all budget all the time for the last 2 weeks. So.
Ugly holiday sweaters encouraged, or are we just going regular sweaters this year?
Is there a difference with your sweaters? Or?
Oh, jeez.
Depends who you ask.
Whoa. I haven't heard, and actually, unfortunately, Mary got up as soon as we started talking. She left.
From last year.
So she's the ugly sweater lady. We'll send out a clarification.
Appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Correspondence. I am just going to jump in quick here. There was one in page 63 of the packet that we received from the Fairhaven Select Board with form letter for our state legislators, encouraging them to access the state's rainy day fund to increase local aid, which in Grafton's case really hasn't kept pace with inflation and has trended downward in recent years. I felt like that was one that we should highlight and see if that's something the board is interested in sending one of those yet again.
Yes, 100%.
Good. All right, we will do that. The other one, and we received a follow-up on this today. My apologies to Troop 106. We had a request to participate in an Eagle Border Review Friday, January 7th. Mr. Offen expressed interest in that over email. Is everybody okay with that, or
Yes.
is there somebody who is passionately
I'm not
opposed?
available that night anyway, so that's great.
Great. So we'll get in touch with them as well. Any other correspondence anybody wish to discuss?
I just had a question about the Climate Collaborative. Will we have representation on that? I wasn't sure who that went to.
Yeah, that is an excellent question. I don't know that we do have any representation on that. I don't believe we do.
Okay.
We can, or we should.
Go to DPW and another committee, I think.
Yeah, let's just double check who that went to. Oh, they don't have it on their letter. I have to double check who
Okay.
that actually went to. Yeah, let us dig into that a little bit. We can shoot an email tomorrow and clarify
Okay.
who that went to and who should be attending.
And I didn't know where to fit this in, but I know that at some point I had asked if we could get an update from the Board of Health relative to the well on McGill in terms of their
Yes.
watching that.
Yes. Yes.
So maybe we could put
I thought
that
they
on.
abandoned. I thought
They
there was a
might have.
follow-up that they abandoned the idea, but it would be good to have.
I can
information.
follow up. I did send or request some more information, and then it kind of just died out. So I don't know if it just died out because they abandoned the project or what. But
So I don't know if that would be like an agenda item or if we just bring that up under your TA report next
Yep.
time. TA report is probably the best place.
yeah, we can do that.
Because I had a resident reach out and that's what they thought
Yeah.
they heard, but I'd rather that we actually know
Yeah,
that.
for sure. And I think going back to just touching on the open space and rec email that we received, it seems like from that, it's just really outlining parcels that could be placed into conservation at upcoming town meetings, things that we accepted but never actually classified as we started doing at the last fall town meeting. So something I think that back burner and discuss as we get closer to Springtown meeting for sure.
Yeah, I think we have discussed internally about just trying to add a warrant article at each kind of town meeting and chip away at
Yeah,
this a
clean
little
those
bit.
up. Yep.
I think it's overwhelming to people if we went there with 25 or whatever it is parcels at once. You know, there's a lot of discussion around that, but if we focus on key areas, we can knock that out.
Great. Anything else? Meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Mullin?
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for September 18th, 2018 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
We can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.